Go, go, go.
Made it.
Shabbat Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat Shalom.
That was Lindsay charging into the building. Shabbat Shalom, everybody, and welcome once again to Congregation Kol Ami. We are now in our second week of opening up the congregation, and we're delighted for all the people who have made their way here to join us, as well as rejoicing with all the people who are online. And as always, this is our time to knit together ourselves as a community, reconnect ourselves, and know what's happening to each other, because ultimately, if we're connected, then we have the comfort and assurance that we will be able to thrive, because no one thrives alone. So let's get started with good and blessing, Tov Uvracha. I'm going to start out by calling attention to the fact that we have a remarkable number of birthdays this week. So it seems that we have Nathan Aurora, Mason Budd, and Brendan Gates Halavchik, thank you, I hope I said that correctly. Diane Seligman, Hannah Tell, Roger Underhill, Adam Bourne, Steve Dubner, Roger Gadan, Ephraim Selinsky, and Michelle Tell, all this week. And in addition to that, we do not have any anniversaries. So who in the room has something to share with us as a good and blessing? Anybody? Yes.
My mom finally got back here after a year.
Melissa's mom is in town, so we're delighted she's able to rejoin us. It has been pretty much a year, right? Since we had you last visit us. So that's great. That's great. Who else?
Well,
Betty?
I'm finally going to get my apartment straightened out.
All right. You know, in the category of it feels so good when they stop beating you with a hammer, Betty is going to get back her apartment after the flooding that occurred. So that's
Well,
partly. Okay. Slowly we get there.
they're gonna start working on it.
Like, they're going to start working on it. Yes. I mean, I don't know if you realize, folks, but about a dozen of us were adversely affected. People who've had problems with their homes, and we're all working it out just like we are here at the congregation. But progress is always reassuring. Anybody else have anything to report? All right. Well, we are on the cusp of Pesach, which of course merits a Chag Sameach to everybody. It starts tomorrow night. And my good and blessing is I have contrived an absolutely wonderful Passover chicken recipe. And it is basically etrog chicken. It's chicken based on a citron marmalade, and it's awesome. So I'm very excited to be able to serve it for the first time this week. It is inspired by a recipe from Connie Kruger, so Connie should get some credit for that, and I just started tinkering with it. So anything else online? Oh, I know that we have Mark Davis. Mark Davis is thankful that he discovered now, rather than tomorrow, that he used not sparkling water, but instead used strawberry lemonade sparkly water to make his matzo balls. Now, frankly, that sounds fairly clever and innovative, but he's just happy that he'll have time to scramble and recover from this over Shabbat. So we wish you well, Mark, on your flavorless matzo balls. Anybody else have an announcement? Good and blessing? No? All right. Well, then it's time for us to kindle the lights of Shabbat, and it's my privilege to invite up Joanne Barnes to do this for us this week. And here goes the rabbi cam.
In the beginning, when the Spirit of God hovered over the darkness, God's first creation was light. As we kindle these Shabbat lights, we attest to the majesty of God's work and rejoice in its beauty. Light is a symbol of divinity and creative goodness. It is the outward sign of that inner spark which God has granted each of us. In hope and with love, we now welcome Shabbat with light. Don't burn down the synagogue. This is not going well, Rabbi. You sure? Do you want this tonight? Okay. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav b'tzivanu b'hadlik ner shel Shabbat. Praised are you, Adonai, whose presence fills the world, who hallows us with mitzvot and inspires us to kindle Shabbat lights. May God bless us with Shabbat joy. May God bless us with Shabbat holiness. May God bless us with Shabbat peace. Amen.
We continue now with our Kabbalat Shabbat, our use of Psalms in order to welcome the Sabbath, really just a warm-up to the formal service, but a joyous one, and one full of color and delight. So we begin with Psalm 95. We're going to do that in English. Come, let us sing joyously to Adonai, and raise a shout for our rock and our deliverer. Come, let us enter God's presence with praise. Let us raise a shout for God in song. For Adonai is supreme, the sovereign over all beings. We continue now with Psalm 97 on page 4, and we're going to sing the line Or Soruach. We continue now with Psalm 99, which envisions Mount Zion as the footstool of God's presence on earth. Psalm 99, page 5. It is you who established equity, you who works righteous judgment in Jacob. Exalt Adonai our God, and bow down towards God's footstool. God is holy. Exalt Adonai our God, and bow down towards God's holy mountain. For Adonai, our God, is holy. We continue with Psalm 29. Avul Adonai b'nei Avul Adonai kavod v'oz, Avul Adonai kevod shemo, Ishtachavu l'Adonai b'adrat kodesh. Adonai oz le'amo yiteh, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom. And now we come to the very edge of Shabbat with Lecha Dodi, our medieval poem of celebration as the Sabbath enters the room. And it's my privilege to designate Sharon and Don to man the gates as the Sabbath bride joins us. Lecha Dodi, page 7.
Lecha Dodi liknat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha Dodi liknat kala, b'nei Shabbat lekabela. Lecha Dodi liknat
Arouse yourself and rise, for your light has come. Arise, shine, awaken, awaken. Give forth a song. The glory of God is revealed to you. So come in peace, you crown of your husband, with rejoicing and with joy to those who are faithful, a treasured people. Come, O Shabbat. Come, O bride. We continue now with the Hatzi Kaddish, and I'm inviting Lindsay up to the bima.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
Amen.
בעלמא יברא גדותי וימליך מלכותי. וחייכונו ביום אחד וחיי לכל בית ישראל. בהגרלה בהגרלה ובזמן קריב ויאמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעלמי המאיה. יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר וירומם וינצח ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שמי קדושם ברכו לילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבתה ונחמתה דמירם בעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
Please rise, whether it be in body or in heart. We continue now with the celebration of both day and night, Ma'ariv Aravim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher b'dvaro Ma'ariv Aravim. B'chokma poteach sha'arim, u'v'ibna mishaneh itim, u'machalif et hazmanim, u'msader et hakokavim, b'mishmerotehem karasiya korotzo. Orei yom v'layla. Kolel or mipnei choshech, v'choshech mipnei or, u'mavdir yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot, Adonai u'mavdil ben yom uvein laila, Adonai tzvaot shemo, El chai v'kayam tamid yimloch aleinu le'olam va'ed, Baruch atah Adonai, ha'ma'ariv aravim. May God govern us always to the end of time. Praised are you, Adonai, who makes the evening fall. And praised are you for your unending love for your people, this house of Israel. Torah and mitzvot, laws and precepts you have taught us. Therefore, Adonai our God, when we lie down and when we rise up, we will meditate upon your laws and rejoice in your Torah and your commandments forever. Day and night we will reflect on them, for they are our life and the length of our days. And then your love shall never depart from our hearts. Blessed is Adonai, who loves the people Israel.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto,
You can be seated for the Via Hafta.
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכלך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיהם אני אדוני אלוהיהם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות להם לאלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיהם.
And now we come to the prayer that intersects with our holiday, Emet Ve'emunah, reminding us of the pivotal events that happened to us in Egypt that brought us to Mount Sinai. Emet ve'emunah kol zot v'kayam aleinu ki hu Adonai Eloheinu ve'ein zulato v'nachnu Yisrael amo. True and enduring, beloved and precious, awesome, good and beautiful is this eternal teaching. We hold this to be forever certain. Adonai is our ruler, the rock of Jacob, shield of our salvation. Adonai, our God, you redeemed us from Egypt, from the house of bondage. You set us free from the house of bondage. For this, the people who felt your love sang songs of praise to you. Living God, high and exalted, mighty and awesome, who humbles the proud and raises the lowly, who frees the captive and redeems the oppressed, who is the answer to all who cry out. All praise to God Most High, the source of blessing. And like Moses and Israel, we sing this song of rejoicing, the Micha Mocha. Shifting our attention from the exalted and remarkable experience of our ancestors, we now turn to the mundane business of our daily lives with a prayer for the day and its end, Hashkivenu. Grant that we lie down in peace, Adonai our God, and raise us up tomorrow, O Sovereign, to life renewed. Spread over us the shelter of your peace. Guide us with your good counsel, and for your name's sake, be our help. Shield us from hatred and plague. Keep us from war, famine, and anguish. Subdue our inclination to evil. O God, our guardian and helper, our gracious and merciful sovereign, give us refuge in the shadow of your wings. O guard our coming and our going, that always we have life and peace. We praise you, O God, whose sukkah of peace is spread over us, over all your people, Israel, and over Jerusalem. We continue now with the second part of our service, the tefillah. I invite you all, if able, to rise.
Adonai, sepatitahu fi tehillateka. Adonai, open up my lips and my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotinu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Yisrael, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el HaGadol HaGibor VeHanora, El Elyon Gomel Chasadim Tovim, Vekonei HaKol, Vezocher Hasdei Avot V'Imaot, Umevii Gvuram Mipnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo V'Rachah, Melech Hoseh Mashiach Magen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham Be'ezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Olam Adonai, Mechayeh Hakol Tamad Yoshiach, Mechakeh Chaim Be'Chesed, Mechayeh Hakol Be'Rachamim Rabim, Tolech Noflim Be'Rofei Kohonim, Umatir Atzurim, Umikayeh Emunato, Mishenei Afar, Michavot Haval Gevurot, Umidom Elam, Melech Me'it Umikayeh, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah l'chayot hakol. Baruch atah Adonai, Mechayeh hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kadoshim b'chol yom v'chol b'sela. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh.
Please be seated, everybody. It's time to honor the Sabbath, and we're going to do so this week with Yismechu b'malachutaka. Those who keep the Sabbath and call it a delight shall rejoice in your dominion forever.
Catch
We turn now to our prayer for acceptance. Reitzei Adonai Eloheinu ba'amcha Yisrael, utefilatam ba'ahava tikabel. Adonai our God, show favor towards your people Israel and lovingly receive our prayers. May the worship of your people always be acceptable to you. For you alone do we hold in reverence. And we offer thanks, Modim. We give thanks to you, Adonai our God and God of our ancestors. You are the rock of our lives, the shield of our salvation in every generation. We thank you and we recite your praises. And let all the living affirm you and praise your name as the God of our salvation and help. Praised are you, Adonai. Goodness is your name. All praises to you. And as always, we close out with a prayer for peace, Shalom Rav, on page 23. We're going to take a moment of silent meditation afterwards.
Shalom Rav el Israel Amha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav el Israel Amha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech Adon lechol hashalom. Shalom Rav al Israel Amha tasim leolam. Shalom Rav al Israel Amha tasim leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. ואמרו אמן. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום, יעשה שלום, שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל. יעשה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
Well, Hag Sameach, the holiday is upon us, and this is a very exciting Shabbat. It, in fact, is called Shabbat Hagadol, the Great Shabbat, if not the greatest Shabbat. It's great for a couple of reasons from a rabbinic point of view. One is that because it's the eve of Pesach and you need to prepare the congregation, the rabbi is pretty much allowed to talk as long as he wants to. And so that makes it pretty great. And the other great part of it is that the Torah portion that always comes up at the very beginning of Pesach is Tzav, which is not the most exciting one. So it's great because we have an excuse to talk about something else. However, I do not want to dismiss Parshat Tzav for some of its interesting qualities. Probably the chief quality of which I want to draw attention tonight is its irony. Because there is no other portion, other than this portion, which appears right at the very beginning of Pesach, that talks more about bread. It has more bread discussion in it than any other Torah portion. All right? And what's going on here is that there is a particular kind of korban, a particular kind of offering called the thanksgiving or a todah offering. And that offering consists of bread, but not just any bread, a whole bundle of bread, basically a bakery of bread, right? It's got to have some spelt bread, and it's got to have some oat bread and wheat bread and unleavened bread and leavened bread. And there's a whole bunch of things going on there. Now, there were a variety of breads back in ancient Israel. And probably the most interesting, however, is what is known in Hebrew as lechem panim, all right? And it's really, really difficult to translate, all right? So if you go to the King James 1611, they call it rather quaintly shewbread, all right? Which really now in modern parlance is showbread, all right? Or it's sometimes called the bread of display. These are both very, very kind of off-kilter translations. Slightly better translations are the bread of countenance, the bread of presence, but lechem panim literally means face bread. That's what it means, face bread, all right? Face bread? Well, so what it's talking about is it's talking about the idea that these 12 loaves, which are set inside the sanctuary, representing the 12 tribes of Israel, are set there symbolically for God. Once a week, the lechem panim is brought in and laid out there in 12 loaves. There's a great deal of argument. Is it laid out flat, or is it done sort of like a taco shell? It's not clear at all, but in any case, that bread stays there for a week. And after it is nice and dry and crunchy or really tired, then it is moved out and the priests are required to eat it. It's kind of a humility moment for the priesthood. But in any case, the bread of God's face, or the bread in God's face, is a very strange phrase. God has a face. We say he doesn't. And yet we use that expression all the time. And it gets more complicated because panim, the word for face, is actually, at least in its form, plural. All right? It is one of a select number of Hebrew words that can best be called a plural singular. It's always spelled with the yud mem at the end. The yud mem is the Hebrew masculine form for the plural, the way we in English use an S to say something is pluralized. The yud mem does that function in Hebrew. So nevertheless, it's a singular noun. We're not saying faces, we're saying face. And examples of words like this in Hebrew are mayim, which means water, though it sounds like waters. Shamayim, the sky, which seems to be the skies, but it's actually the single sky. And Elohim, God, which again is in plural and yet is actually singular. Now, it is in fact true that there are a singular masculine and a singular feminine form of Hebrew words for God that do appear in the Bible, but only very rarely. It's El, if you're going to make it masculine, singular, and it's Aloha, or as I like to say, the Hawaiian God, if you're going to make it feminine. But there's only a few examples of each of those. Elohim is the standard word to describe God, all right? So panim should mean faces, but it only means face. And actually, if you think about it, it actually has something interesting to say, because I, you, everybody, we only have one visage. We only have one countenance, but each and every one of us presents many faces in the course of our life, even in the course of a single day. We present a different face at work than we present at home, a different face at a concert than we do at a funeral. We try and present a consistent vision of ourselves to the outside world, but let's admit it, we have different ways of presenting ourselves depending on the circumstances. Are we commanding something or are we asking for something? And in each case, we present ourselves somewhat differently. Poets have always been aware of this. Walt Whitman said, "I am large, I contain multitudes." And the South American poet, Pablo Neruda, said of himself, "We are many." The face we show, more often than not, really depends on the face before us. To put it another way, we want different people to know us as different people. And I think God has had precisely the same challenge, all right? Of course, it's infinitely more complicated for God than it is for us, right? God is one, but panim, so many faces are presented to us in the Hebrew Bible. It's a different thing to literally see God's face, as is said many times in the Hebrew Bible, because when you see God's face, you die. Other than being shown God's countenance, which has a different, more positive connotation, which is positive, ask Moses who asked to see God's countenance, or sometimes you can translate panim as experiencing God's presence. Each one of those has a different vector, has a different feel to it. If we do a poor job of presenting the right face to someone, say a potential employer, well, we don't get the job. But if God presents himself suboptimally, well, then the world takes a turn for the worse. So in communicating with us, God has learned to present several different faces. First face is that of the Borei, the creator of the universe. It's a good one that shows off God's skill set if you were applying for a job. But it's kind of remote. It's kind of cosmic, and it's a little hard for us to relate to. On the other hand, when he decided to call Abraham to start his new people, he said, "I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of Ur Kasdim." All right, now that's a nice phrase. It shows, first of all, that God makes things happen. And presumably, there's something about Ur Kasdim that say worse than Newark, that God needed to get Abraham out of there. And God did that. And so that's great. All right. And so that's a wonderful one to use. However, you notice we never talk about celebrating leaving Ur Kasdim, right? There's no exiting Detroit Day in the Jewish tradition. While it's very personal, there was something about Ur Kasdim that affected Abraham, it doesn't resonate with us, right? It doesn't mean anything to us. God could simply say, as we often say rhetorically also, "I am your father, Luke," right? That's one that might be a little tone deaf unless you're Luke Skywalker, But in fact, if we have a decent relationship with our father or our mother, talking about as being the divine parent is pretty good. But God chooses a different voice at this holiday. God says, first of all, when God sends Moses, he says, I am the God of your fathers. That's his starting point, so that we can connect to God from the past. But by the time we get to that moment at the Ten Commandments, where God is now putting the world that's been enslaved and now free and was in chaos and now in order, and he's creating a new people, he says, I am the God, I am Adonai your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. That's pretty pizzazzy, right? Because there God is saying, I make things happen. I make things better. God not only delivers us, but he makes our rescue something of the head of a universal code that would come to influence the entire world, a set of principles that reach far beyond the experience of us as a Jewish family to larger communities. So sometimes the face of God stands outside history, and that is the face of the Creator. Sometimes God is so intimate to us that whatever we experience is meaningful only to us. Ur Kasdim. I have no idea why Abraham was unhappy there, but apparently he was. And it was important to him that he get out of there, and God helped him do that. All right, and then God is like our sacred kinsman. However, principally, we are supposed to know God as the God of history, the God of our people, the God who is the stuff that fills out our lives, the God who makes things better, but also the God who is, as they say in Yiddish, memasheh, substantial. God who is something. Wow, that's something. That's what that word memasheh means. God cares about all the ways to be human and gives us guidance in Torah to each and every aspect of our lives. We may not follow that advice. We may react to God like we react to our parents, our mothers and fathers. They have lots of good advice for us that we choose not to follow. But we are supposed to know that God is there with us in the substance of our experience. A little bit like bread. Bread, we like to say, is the staff of life. In Judaism, it stands in for all food. If you say the blessing for bread, you've covered whatever else you're eating, whether it be etrogs or kumquats or ho-hos or whatever it is, right? You've got it. And likewise, God is the spirit who sustains our soul. And that God is available to us in many faces. God creates us, God loves us, and God, most of all, for us as a community, gives us purpose. We are no longer slaves in history. We are no longer slaves to history, but we are a treasured people, a people who has a greater purpose. That is the meaning of Pesach. That is the meaning of this holiday. God's great gift to us, the Jewish people, and from there unto the world. What could be a greater gift than that? Shabbat Shalom, everyone. And it's time for our announcements, and the officer in charge of our announcements tonight is me. All right. So let's take a look at what we've got here. So we're going to start towards the back. And no, we're going to take another one off. There we go. All right. So as you know, we've now returned to in-person services on Friday nights and Torah Tefillah on Saturday mornings. And you're welcome to come to either. We maintain socially distant and we wear masks, but the building is open for that. However, the building is beyond the sanctuary, is still not functional, so we just have to be conscious of that, and that will continue probably into the summer. Beginning on Friday, April 9th, we'll be signing up. The sign up in advance to ensure a minyan will no longer be required, and we will just be back at full capacity. Again, masks and social distancing taken into effect. So in the interim, I'm trying to use few lures for you all. We're not having an oneg. We're not going to mingle ourselves together. However, I brought chocolate biscotti last week. It's moon pies this week. So for those of you who have chosen to come, just know what if you're out there, you know what you're missing out on. Now, next week, I can't promise anything. It's Pesach. But right now, it's awesome. All right. We will continue to broadcast or stream live or telecast or whatever the proper technical term for this is, even after we return to live services. We are having a virtual community Seder on Sunday evening. I hope each and every one of you is able to celebrate a Seder on Saturday night, but if you can't, or if you want to connect beyond your immediate family under these conditions, we hope you're able to do one under COVID restrictions, but we will have one on the second night of Passover, Sunday evening, the 28th. It starts at 6 o'clock. So come and join the rabbi. I love talking about myself in the third person, and his panelists as they lead us through the Seder. And we're going to be using the Jubilong Haggadah because they provided it for me online. It's very nice. We'll enjoy it. The Seder is open to everyone in the community. You can download the Haggadah yourself and find the link to view the service on the website. We will also have a map for the kids to download to search for the Afikomen. It's challenging. Believe me, it took me quite a while to find that Afikomen myself. So, but kids, they always do better. So we will have an Afikomen search. We hope you can join us for that. And then once we get past Passover, you know what it's time for. It's time for blood offerings. We are going to do our second blood drive. We had a complete success with our last one. We filled up every slot. And on April 10th, we're going to be doing it from noon to 4 o'clock. I hope we can duplicate what we did last time, and I encourage you all to come out and donate. Please sign up ahead of time as there are a limited number of slots. You'll find all the details and a link to the sign. Where? On the CKA website. That's right. So when you call, that's the answer to all questions. Also be aware, because of Passover, there will be no Sunday school this Sunday. I think that's the last of the announcements. Anything else? All right, ladies and gentlemen, we take time now to say a Mishaberach. Sadly, there are always people in our community who are suffering, whether it be in body or in spirit, and we want to let them know that they are not alone, that we are praying for them and with them. And so we ask, and you may submit a name online or from the congregation, but right now on our list we have these. May the one who blessed our ancestors also bless these people: Harry Anthony, Eli Arts, Jackie Blando, Joe Blando, Natalie Bovino, Karen Buxbaum, Maxine Collins, Sandy Cook, Dave Cook, Jerry Dietz, Deanna Dorio, Ed Driscoll, Pat Ducar, Gordon Ellison, Tammy Ferris, Joanne Felder Rhodes, Debbie Freed, Sandy Garber Rubin, Michelle Griffith, James Hart, Ken Hirschman, Jody Hoffman, Deb Kaufman, Lauren Koenig, Alex Koenig, Alice Korn, Sandy Lensner, Ted Leverage, Karen Moore, Conacoli, I believe I'm saying that right. If I could deserve a correction there. Judy Morisack, Herbert Paley, Paul Redwood Jr., Lisa Rosello, Carol Russet Jett, Adrian Sandler, Myra Schussler, and Ed Trammell. Is there anyone else in the room who has names to offer us? Harold?
Jim Clark, Mike Nelson, Tom Holiday, Nikki Michelle, Howard Hall, Shirley Nagle, Sue Berger, Marion Kaplan, and Gray Walker.
Thank you. Thank you.
Drew Mosley.
Thank you. Any other people online? All right. So we're thinking of all these people, as well as any people that you're thinking of that you love and are suffering in some way. We join our hearts to theirs and we recite the Mishaberach. You can find it on page 40. Page 40.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing. Let us say Amen. Mishebera imotenu Kod Abraham avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen.
As we draw this service to a close, I just want to remind you that being rabbi is a very lonely business, and I hate to do the Aleinu by myself. So is there any possibility that Harold would come up here and open and close the ark with you? There we go. Page 82, ladies and gentlemen. Again, whether in body or in spirit, please rise. Page 82. Aleinu nishabeach l'adon hakol, l'teinu l'ayil celebration, shelo asanu k'vei haratzon, ve'lo samanu k'mishpachot ha'adama, shelo samanu kahem, ve'kol avinu k'kol hamonam. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך. Continue.
שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוסר הארץ, ומושב יקרה בשמיים ממעל, ושכינתו זו בגובה מרומי, הוא אלוהינו אינו, אמת מלכנו אפס זולתו, כך כתוב בתורתו, וידעת היום בהשבותם אל לבביך, כי אדוני הוא האלוהים, בשמיים ממעל, ועל הארץ מתחת עליון.
Please be seated, everybody. Bayom hahu, bayom hahu, yeh Adonai echad, u'shemo, u'shemo, u'shemo echad. Our lives, O God, are in your hands, and in you we trust. Whatever may be our destiny, we know that you will be there for us. Though we may never fathom the mysteries of life and death, we know of your gift of life, which each of us treasures. So no matter what the final end, let us rejoice in the sweetness of the past and our faith in a world to come. There will we find you, your love, and your blessing. And so it is at this time we recall with love and gratitude the names of those whom we have lost recently, as well as those whose anniversaries of death occur this week. We have no one listed for Shiva, no one who's passed away in the last week. Is there any name you want to add? Thank you. Anybody online?
No.
All right. I did perform a memorial service for Jeff Dubell, who passed away this week, a Jew living in Denton County. For Shloshim, we're thinking of Dr. Marcia Bark, a friend and colleague of Amanda Levin Russo, and Joan Richland, the mother of Amy Cherney. Is there anyone else in Shloshim, anyone who's lost someone in the last month? And for our yard sites this week, we think lovingly of Ray Appel, J.W. Baker, Susan Bevis, Bernard Brenner, Consuelo Candelario, Willie Dossie, Larry Glick, Lila Hartman Ruck, Jake Lee, Leah Lip, Elizabeth Joyce McGregor Scott, Harold Moore, Jonah Shane, and Malka Weinstock. Is there anyone else with a yard site? Yes.
Culture Penny Singer and Return Island.
Thank you. Anything online?
No.
Nope. We continue to honor these people, and we honor all those who've gone before us by turning page 85 and rising together to recite the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, ve'alma tivrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon v'yamechon, v'chayei d'chol beit Yisrael, v'galal u'izman karib v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevorach le'olam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shmei d'kutsham baruchu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, damiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama Rabbah mim shemaya, v'chayim aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'mroma, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu ve'el kol Yisrael, v'imru amen. Be the source of peace and peace to all who mourn, and comfort all the bereaved among us. And let us say, Amen. So please be seated. Now, I did say that the rabbi could go on forever, but I'm going to cede some of my time for our closing song because we need to do Hadgadya. All right, and it goes on a little while, but it's a great song for those of you who have always wondered about it. It's an allegory, folks. Yeah, we're talking about cats and dogs and sticks and fire and things like that, but it really is a message about whatever we suffer, whatever we endure, in the end we are assured that God will be there to swallow up death and suffering and bring us to that final promised land. So, Hadgadya, one goat.
I remember the first time I sang this at a Passover service, I asked Rabbi, okay, this convert has an extra Passover question. Why do we sing this song? And Rabbi answered, because we really want our services to continue on until midnight.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, so bear with me. Thy father bought for two Zusim, then came a cat that ate the goat, that father bought for two Zusim, then came the dog that bit the cat, that ate the doe my father bought for two Zuzim. Then came the stick that bit the dog that, no, that beat the dog. The stick does not bite. Then came the stick that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the goat, that father bought for two Zusim. Had-gad-ya. Then came the fire that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the goat, that father bought for two Zuzim. Had-gad-ya. Then came the water that quenched the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the goat, that father bought for two Zuzim. Had-gad-ya. Then came the ox that drank the water, that quenched the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the goat, that father bought for two Zuzim. Had-gad-ya. Then came the butcher that slaughtered the ox, that drank the water, that quenched the fire, that burnt the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the goat, that father bought for two Zuzim. Had-gad-ya. Then came the angel of death that killed the butcher, that slaughtered the ox, that drank the water, quenched the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the goat, that father bought for two Zuzim. Had-gad-ya. Then came the angel of death that killed the butcher, that slaughtered the ox, that drank the water, that quenched the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the goat, that father bought for two Zuzim. I did that one twice, didn't I? Had-gad-ya. Then came the Holy One, blessed is He, and slew the angel of death, that killed the butcher, that slaughtered the ox, that drank the water, that quenched the fire, that burned the stick, that beat the dog, that bit the cat, that ate the goat, that father brought for two Zuzim. Had-gad-ya.
I realize this has been hard on all the lovers of goats and cats and dogs and sticks and tap water and butchers and all these things and people we love. But it all is for a purpose, to remind us that we are on a journey together, and that whatever the setbacks, whatever the suffering, there is a glorious future awaiting us all. And just to comfort you in the midst of all of these casualties, we're going to say Kiddush for Shabbat, and we're going to say a blessing over bread, and then it's moon pies all around, except for those people who don't like moon pies. And then I have Miss Swiss, the little chocolate rolls. So you've got options. Here. All right. So, but we begin with our Kiddush.
Chocolate bolt Swiss Miss, like the powder, like the cocoa?
No. The little Miss Swiss rolls with the artificial chocolate and the artificial cream in the middle.
Little Debbie.
Little Debbie's. That's it.
Oh.
Little Debbie's. Thank you.
Okay,
All right.
yeah, so it was like Swiss
Yeah,
Miss
no,
is
no,
cocoa,
so-
isn't it? You could have made
Nothing that
cocoa.
grand. All right.
That's nice. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kitshar b'mitzvotav ורצה בנו, ושבת קודשו, ויהבהו רצון המהילנו, זיכרון למעשה בראשית, כי הוא יום תהילה למקראי קודש, זכר ליציאת מצרים. כי באנו ואהבת
Kol Ami Shabbat Kodecha Be'ahava uvratzon Himhaltanu Baruch atah Adonai Mekadesh HaShabbat. Amen.
L'chaim. All right. And as if to taunt us, we have an unusually fluffy challah here for us, just to remind us what we're going to be missing out on for the next week. But we're glad to have it now. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in the motzi. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful celebration at home, and I hope you have a